Hi everybody, I just wanted to touch base and do a little video about mission versus agency. So what is agency? Agency is basically sovereignty. Moving through your stories and therefore the identities and the bubbles of reality that your soul gets to experience through this incarnation, right? And essentially all the lessons and all the things we learn through our reality construct, through that which we have designed and created for ourselves, because please know that every single little thing that you've experienced has been created for you, by you, very well designed and constructed code in order for you to learn something. And with this kind of ethos or idea, basically we come to a point where we recognize the responsibility that we have as beings in this time matrix. And when we step into accountability and responsibility of our path, of our passion, of our purpose, knowing that everything is just a sequence of experiences, to not be attached to them. So these kind of tenets of non-attachment, non-judgment, non-expectation, present moments, and unconditional love is what drives you forward, right, in the planetary system. And in essence, I think every being on the planet is seeking for truth, right? We're seeking for that which feels good within us, for that which is speaking freedom, sovereignty, truth, joy, celebration, and that is going to be in alignment with what it is that you want to do, right? To have this experience of learning in the bubbles of creation. And so we can say that this is our mission, but the moment that we say that something is a mission, we are essentially saying that we're in activism space, in a space of activism. Unless your mission is to be in unity consciousness, unless your mission is to be aligned to sovereignty, unless your mission is to be totally free within your expression, within your ideas, within your thoughts, within this reality field, then mission could be something that leans towards and has a tendency to be in a space or a frequency of activism. And the moment we've got activism, we've got a left and right. We've got a them versus us. We've got a me versus the world. We've got a savior and a hero complex playing out, which in fact is once again a victim-victimizer program, which once again loops us into reality constructs that are pinging off of each other, and timelines keep looping and repeating themselves. And so I don't know about you, but for me, there's something within the system that really, that I question, in the sense of like, why do we keep repeating the same things? If you look at any show or anything on TV or gaming, or the news or the newspaper or anything, we are backstabbing each other left, right, and center. To kill someone seems to have no karmic consequence, nor does it feel like it has an emotional consequence, whether you are doing it or watching it. It just feels to me, it seems to me as I watch the program unfold in front of me, that we just don't have a reaction to this anymore. And we can call this desensitization, which is probably a high probability that that is a very big designed agenda to desensitize us from these things. But good grief, when are we going to get to the point where we realize we are killing each other? We are in such spaces of survival, right, that we would do anything just to take another breath. all right? And there's something beautiful in that. There's that survival primal instinct, but it's only there because we've desensitized from any emotional bandwidth and spiritual bankruptcy in actually feeling what it feels like to hurt one another, right? And so if we're in a mission complex, which inevitably means that there's a savior or a hero to the story. And so what you will begin to see as your consciousness begins to break out of the square, the cube, the box, and there's more and more. So it's like this beautiful flowering that happens and occurs. What you will begin to see is how many savior constructs you have been in, how many warrior constructs you've been in, how you are here on a mission to save something, to do something, to correct something. So this can become confusing because I've just mentioned the atrocities of our humanity and what we're going through at the moment: starvation, war, pestilence, suffering, control, etc., etc. And I've also simultaneously said, and this is the paradox of creation, this is the paradox of the God Code, I've also just said that if we are in mission mode, meaning we're going to save something, that inevitably there is a belief that something is wrong. So how do we bring these two concepts together, come to neutrality and sovereignty, knowing that fundamentally, yes, there is something very toxic within our reality construct. There is something that requires a shift. It requires deep observation. But is the Saviour model going to bring that sense of justice that you seek? And this is the question you have to ask yourself. Because when we look at creation mechanics, how things come into form, it's just patterns. It's just patterns of behavior, patterns of energy. So everything is energy. Everything is energy. And most of it that is being explored at this point of time is traumatic energy. It's trauma coming through to be seen, to be witnessed, to be healed, to be held, to be transmuted, to be neutralized, to come back into unconditional love within the God Code, right? And through that neutralization process, we stop giving this victimizer, left, right, me, them, us and the world, whatever it is, the dichotomy that is duality, that is the paradox of unity in this planetary system. So I may sound like I'm speaking in riddles at this point, and to some of you, I could also agree. I could also definitely agree, because this is what goes through my mind and what I'm observing at any point in time in our historic timeline, our present timeline, and that which I understand as time and space and the eternal perpetual now moment. But how do we do it? Is we stop giving it energy and we stand in our sovereignty. So I said mission versus agency. Now, if I were to ask you, what is it that you would do on the planet if, let's say, everything was in more of a balance, if things were in more of a balance, right? Because we've still got 100 million hats to wear in order to learn about ourselves, in order to embody aspects of ourselves to bring us to the identity of God. So, that's why I said, so not if everything was in perfection, because if everything was in perfection, what would you be? You would probably just be a blip of sound within the waves of consciousness streams that is the one, right? You would be everything and nothing. But if you were still in your human identity, all right, in this bodysuit, in this biological thing that we call our bodies, and there was more balance on this planet. And in this story that I'm creating, let's say that there was less destruction, less war, hardly any of it, but we still had little bits of imbalances, and we still have the memory system of what we know from this now timeline in the incarnation. So we know that we have these jobs on the planet. We've got healers, and we've got Reiki masters, and we've got bankers and bookshops and whatever it is. What is it that you would do, right? If you could do anything in a pretty balanced economy, a pretty balanced social system, a pretty balanced, collective consciousness, what is it that you would do? How would you want to express yourself as a being? This, I think, is a beautiful way of coming back to yourself, coming back to your self-agency and your sovereignty and that which you are inevitably designed to do. In essence, you're designed to do anything because you are everything, but you've got something that you want to learn from, right? There's something that you want to express through. There's something that you want to inquire and become inquisitive about, and inevitably to learn from. Because if we remain in Saviour models, right, this hero and Saviour and the rescuer model, we are just adding energy to a binary system where we're competing. Okay, so this is the element of competition, where we are trying to destroy one thing versus the other thing, where we're trying to get a leg up and a level of righteousness, that our idea is better than this idea. And so we're just continuing to feed this binary construct. And what's going to happen then is it's forever going to perpetuate within the holographic field as an experience to continue to learn from, right? And that's what we've been doing. I must at this point, however, say that although that is what we have been doing, there is also a design element as such that has been a participant in this aspect of creation based on historical timelines, okay? So what I'm alluding to there is, so I'm trying to simplify it. What I'm alluding to there is, yes, we can go down the rabbit hole of many conspiracy theories and reptilians and this and that, and this being of races and this black hole structure and this AI non-organic wormhole loop, and these time rips in time and space. Yes, of course, that all adds to this messy, chaotic thing that we call life at the moment. But if we were to simplify and say, what is my task? What is my function? How do I exist and participate as a life form, a stream of consciousness, sacred energies, the sacred particle of God, of the whole entire thing? How do I consistently show up without adding to the chaos, right? How do we neutralize the chaos? We have to go inwards and really determine, is that which we are doing, any thoughts, any decisions, any actions that we make around food, relationships, shopping, that which we consume, right? Because even when you are in a job or fulfilling your task, your function on your mission, the thing that you are consuming is time, right? So it is therefore your energy. So when we are in consuming mode, what is it that we can do that is feeding the energies back to us, reciprocating? So kind of like the law of reciprocity. If I'm giving, I'm also simultaneously receiving. Because when we're in this kind of conduct of the warrior, the savior, the hero, often what is the story, or often the story that transpires from that is the recognition that you begin to feel drained, you begin to feel tired, you are at your wit's end, your nervous system is wrecked, you are feeling like you're not getting anywhere, no justice is being served. And what does that do? Put you back into the victim mode. And then you rise up into warrior, yes, and you've got another boost of strength, and you're probably just in hypervigilance, right? Overcompensating, and there's an ego element at play that dictates that there is still separation, and therefore without you fulfilling this task, this function of the hero, everything falls flat. And what does this represent to us? It represents that you indeed are in the scarcity model, right? You're back in binary and have to look very closely at your belief system around God, reality, the law of one, right? Because within the law of one, there is no separation. So you should not be feeling diminished. You should not be feeling depleted, etc., etc., etc. And so we can confuse ourselves very, very quickly and become extremely despondent when we are of the belief system that our task and function is to go and rescue and save and be on mission. So we often, a lot of light workers will say they're on, ground crew control. The mission is to save planet Earth. The mission is to increase the consciousness of as many beings as possible on the planet. And the mission is to raise the frequency of the planet, etc., etc. Again, the refinement that is required with regards to your cognitive processing and the careful observation of any dissonance within your belief system is required. So the refinement of observation of your belief systems is a very, very unique gift that I invite you to begin participating in, playing with, and deeply, deeply observing, right? Because as much as those things are beautiful to raise levels of consciousness, to see a planetary system flourish in its true capacity, to stand up for that which is destructive, right? These things are beautiful, but how we implement them needs to be in absolute alignment, in absolute purity, in absolute conscious, awake, aware, centered, neutralized thought as somewhat of a game. So in the sense of taking the seriousness away from it, all right? And within the game, you still have responsibility, because there are attitudes and responsibilities of mastery that will get you here. But the game represents an element of play. The game represents an element of participation, whereas the fight, the war, the savior, the warrior, what does that feel like? It feels to me that the frequency that it represents is fight rather than play. So we can take this with children. Children can be playing, and very quickly it'll turn into a fight. What do? Disarm that energy, all right? And they'll continue to play. There's no tears, there's no drama. They're just deeply in the story of their game. And then they pop out of it. There's no attachment. They go eat, what they've been served for lunch and have a little nap, and they've been in a beautiful imaginative space, which is often what we do in healing work, right? So adults come in, we deprogram everything that has been programmed and indoctrinated into us. And what are a lot of the things that we do? We get you to sing again, we get you to dance again, we get you to play again, to draw out of the lines, to stop being so much in the mental body, to play. all right, to play. So how do we neutralize all the seriousness and still, come to recognition that there are dark forces, that there is darkness. But if we keep feeding into the binary system of these victim-victimizer programs, you keep looping the timelines. I feel that the way that I'm presenting this, and I hope that it may be construed and felt as quite simple. And I'm going to share that it's not that simple. Perhaps the verbalization of what I've been saying feels simple enough, and I hope that is true. Because when you deconstruct it, that is its essence. It's simply put, how are you conducting yourself through the desire of what your soul wishes to experience? And is it in absolute agency and sovereignty for you to explore something without manipulation of energy of that which is around it? So what happens is your world can possibly get a bit smaller from the perspective of now engaging in activities, events, conversations with fewer and less people that are more resonant to you, where you can have discussion and dialogue rather than trying to prove your point in righteousness in this victim-victimizer profiling of, I am right, you are wrong, conspiracy theories do exist, no, can't you see that there's an agenda? It's all a trap. It's all a trap. It's all a trap. And in the big quantum field, so as much as your world might become smaller based on critical thinking and strong boundaries and also agency, meaning I don't want to deal with this crap anymore. Eliminate it from your reality. What pops up in your construct? Exactly that which you require for your new level of inquiry, which is deep dialogue and discussion. Observation of triggers, which you are at this point probably very capable of dealing with, stepping away, neutralizing the nervous system, coming back into dialogue and discussion, being adult and compassionate and apologetic and saying, hey man, sorry, I lost it there for a second, just needed a moment, happy to go back in. We don't need to be right and wrong anymore or prove ourselves right and wrong. This is a sequence of experiences of which we get to learn from. It is very, very, very powerful when you take the restrictions away from you of these profiles that we so quickly drop into. And the profiles are programs created and coded and designed to not keep you in, because if I say keep you in, it means that you haven't consented to that. At some level you have, you just haven't consciously consented to it, right? So again, when we start to step out of those restrictive boundaries, that kind of cubic form that keeps you locked in an angular space rather than flowing through creation, watching it move around you as you stand at center point, able to breathe, able to neutralize the nervous system, able to stand in sovereignty, conscious, awake, aware, still a participant, so you're welcome to jump in, learn from that experience. But if you're choosing now, you have choice. Consciousness is choice. Consciousness is creation. Consciousness is choice, right? It is also unconditional love, right? So when you jump into a creation now, you have chosen to step into a teaching zone or a lesson that represents unconditional love, that is beneficial for your highest timeline, that you can experience with another as two neutral parties, possibly still with differing belief systems, because this is how we learn, right? This is how we grow, possibly still with two differing belief systems. But when you leave that encounter. And when you walk away from that encounter, the encounter is deemed as sacred. The encounter is deemed as exceptionally revealing. The encounter has an essence of reverence, because in reverence we can honor that the other person has a different perspective. We don't need to fix that perspective. We don't need to heal that perspective, nor do we need to change it. But what we'd like to do is share ours in agreement that it is just an expression that you would like to bring to the table, because this is the belief system construct that you are dealing with at this particular point in time, and you'd love some reflection and feedback so that you can walk away and grow from it. Right? And so this is something I'm really playing with. My last video was around stepping back into the service of medicine, which if you watched up until the 36 minutes and had the capacity to still hold your space there without moving into dopamine fixing, you would have heard me speak about the fact that I stepped into this space after much deliberation and consideration, and what I perceive as the removal of persecution imprints and persecution imprints and inserts into my field, right? Because if I am going to be judged and cancel cultured for participating in a construct of my own creation as one, as the God body, as a fractal of God, and be deemed negligent through that, while having a whole massive amount of data that the outside world does not know of in terms of my internal process of coming back to the decision to participate in this for now. There are many things I wish to participate in, and it is because I come back to that reference of the game. I also want to participate in many things and am very willing to drop many things because I know I'm eternal within a game, right? I'm very much in alignment with the fact that this is a simulation, and to some degree that can stifle you, but it can also allow you to grow, because at somewhere within the game is a programmer, somewhere within the game is a player, and when you realize you are both, right, and you are sovereign and in your agency, then who's to say that you cannot play a certain part of the game? And of course, the attitudes and accountabilities of, or the attitudes and responsibilities of mastery are very important here, because we want participants of the game to be loving, kind, compassionate, have diplomacy, have self-agency, be able to self-contain, be able to self-parent themselves, to be able to be so adult within the game that we go to a next level of evolutionary space and see what transpires from the co-creative coding of the new game, a new level. And there will always be different levels. You'll all be playing in different categories of the game, right? But do you wish to be exhausted forever while still profiling yourself as the hero, the savior? Because everything is connected at any one point in time, and it is all this quantum entanglement, right? But if you become to get very specific about your intentions, the lessons you wish to gain through participation of your creation, you start to play a very, very different game. That is my short and sweet 30-minute message for today. So mission versus self-agency. Have a play with those words, Words hold frequency, they hold vibration, they are oscillating and dancing and contracting and expanding at any point in time, because this is the nature of creation. It is exquisite, it is palpable, it is unimaginable, unfathomable, unfathomable, but it is also how reality works from my perspective. So you have self-agency to determine how reality works for you. There are 100 million potential timelines, probability spectrums, curves, waves. But if we want to really come into a construct that is more balanced, then I highly recommend to listen to this and to play with the ideas that I've presented here. So I've mentioned the word play again. To play with the ideas that are mentioned here, because you are free. You are God. There is no restriction on God. And I hope, and I have no doubt, that everything that you create comes from such a beautiful, unique space in your heart, from a desire to learn and explore yourself as God, consciousness, and creator, man and woman of mankind that have capacity to create, right? And as you step through the layers of identity, you may question, am I man? Am I woman? Am I God? Am I AI? Am I just a code? Am I nothing? Am I just a wisp in the wind? Right? I have no doubt that as a humanity, what we seek is liberation. And we still can help one another through what that means, how it looks, what it feels like, to deconstruct and disengage and discharge the energy that keeps us in polarized fight and flight and freeze. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Allow your energy to flow. Come into your power, sovereign beings. I love you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this and have a beautiful day. Ciao.